Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we'll continue live streaming and posting these services on YouTube channel for our virtual audiences, attendees, and you can also watch them if you like it so much you want to see it again, too. So I'm Steve Fuji, a member of the Board of Trustees, and I will be your worship associate today. Members of the worship committee who make this service possible include Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam Weddingking, who monitors our visual and online connections, Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system, and not to mention Grace Preuss, who probably wrote this and didn't put herself in here, who does so much work to make this happen. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. Welcome to the first Sunday of 2025, a brand new year of fresh beginnings, new experiences, connections, and challenges. In the year ahead of us, we will have more opportunities to explore our spiritual paths, connecting to and creating the ways that our individual lives fit into a larger spiritual community. So welcome to the first day of fellowship in 2025. We're glad you're here. Before we move into the service, thank you for putting this here. There are a few announcements we would like to share. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. And at the end of the service, we'll leave a slide up with all this information, and it is also available at our website. We are saddened to announce the passing of one of our members, Harriet Singer. Harriet was a longtime member of the Women's Federation and often hosted the spring potluck at her home. She became a member of our congregation in March of 2018. So that's sad news. The January-February newsletter has not been completed. Kate is looking for someone to help prepare the newsletter every other month. Please see her if you're willing to help write or edit our newsletters. So for those of you who aspire to be newspaper editors, here's a good chance to practice. Our first Sunday luncheon will be served after the service. Today's theme is soups. We hope you will join us. Contributions are appreciated and will be donated to the church fund. Thursday of this week, we'll be continuing our game night series, 6 p.m. Thursday. We have games, but you're welcome to bring any of your favorites and also to bring snacks and beverages if you would like to. But please come. It's a good social event and helps us build spiritual community here. Church Council will meet on the second Friday of the month in the annex. The next meeting will be at 4 p.m. on January 10th. The book club meets on the second Monday of the month at 6:30 p.m. in the annex. The next meeting is on January 13th, and the current book for discussion is The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. I do highly recommend that book, too. I've read it. A discussion on the ongoing Peace series will be held today from 12 to 1 p.m. in the sanctuary following the luncheon. All are invited to attend and participate in the Q&A session. Women's Fed will be meeting on the second Saturday, January 11th at 1 p.m. in the Parish Hall. As the first meeting of 2025, members will discuss the group's vision and direction for the new year. Your ideas, suggestions, and of course, light refreshments would be appreciated. And welcome to all our visitors today, and welcome back to all our old friends. We'd love to meet you during coffee hour and, of course, during the luncheon as well after the service. If you're comfortable doing so, please give us a wave so we can recognize you later. And for those on Zoom, you can use the Zoom wave gesture or just wave at your camera. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors book. So any new visitors here today, wave your hand so we know who you are, and we'll hope to get a chance to get to know you better. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you were here, although we'll remember you, of course. But leave your contact information if you want updates on our church events. There will also be a short discussion after the service to share your reflections with us. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. Do we have any new people on Zoom, Adam? Okay, now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into our worship hour. You're welcome to read with me the covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to live in service to humankind and all life in fellowship. This we do covenant. Our sermon today is a reading of the sermon, Learning the Principles by Heart, by Reverend Leslie Becknell Marks. Reverend Leslie Becknell Marks is a minister at the Way East UU congregation in what is known as Mount Hood, Oregon. Why isn't it just called Mount Hood, Oregon? Anyway, she works with the members of the Y East in a robust shared ministry. After more than a decade of contemplating UU ministry, Leslie attended Andover Newton Theological School outside Boston, was intern minister at First Parish in Brookline, Massachusetts, and was an intern chaplain in a retirement community. She enjoys writing and telling stories, connecting across religious traditions, and leading interactive classes and workshops. An important part of ministry is advocating for peaceful resolutions across differences, equity and inclusion for LGBTQIA and all that other stuff, disabled people, women, and children. Her personal passions include playback, improvisational theater, dancing of all kinds, reading and talking about novels, and the Oregon coast. The Oregon coast is a nice thing to be at. So most UUs generally know the 7 principles of our faith by heart. What does knowing them by heart mean? We may know them by rote memory. Some of us may even know how to recite them word for word. It is much more challenging to take these principles to heart and actively seek opportunities to bring them to life. As a minister once said, it is terribly important to realize that the leap of faith is not so much a leap of thought as of action. Now we have 2 lightings of sacred flames. The first is a remembrance candle for indigenous peoples who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. We remember that underneath us is the unceded land of several indigenous peoples, the Cahuilla, the Lusano, and the Cupeño peoples. And we light this sacred flame in their remembrance and in recognition of their ongoing struggle for freedom and dignity. And mind you, unceded land means they didn't give it up. We just took it. It's our story. Our second sacred flame is our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We are blessed with this space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's chalice lighting words are Into Many Coming Years by Mary Sheldon. We cannot know what all the years may bring, and would we heed the prophecy if we could? Bright flame, awake, send forth your shining light beyond this year and into the many coming. Show us the ways of love and help and care, of justice, mercy, and equality. Illuminate unto the generations, show to the world a beacon of safe harbor. Help us to find the kindred warmth within us and among us to help make it so. It is said that shared joy is a double joy, shared sorrow is a half sorrow. On the first Sunday of each month, we share the joys and concerns that we have received from you and which you have collected throughout the month. First, I'm going to read the joys and concerns that were given to us. But I don't see any of them here. Well, if there's any of you in the sanctuary who would like to speak their joy or concern, please raise your hand and we'll invite you to speak here at the microphone. Come on up. Right now.
I just want to say, am I on? Yeah. I just want to say, Alec is here. I'm say, Alec, it's a long, long road with many winding turns that keeps us on our way. Alec ain't heavy. He's my brother.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. It's good to see you too. That's one of my joys is that I get to be back here with all of you and see you again. And my other joy is that I got to go back to Illinois and see my family for the last few weeks and spend the holiday times with them. I got to see the church that I grew up in. My concern is that I was sick, and so I didn't get to go to the winter solstice celebration that we do every year. But it wasn't COVID, so I guess that was a positive.
Good morning. My name is Nick, and I'm a Universalist Unitarian. Good to see you, all of you, in the new year. In my ongoing journey to wholeness, I had the neck surgery 2 months ago, and that's going fine. But in the meantime, I saw my neurologist last week, and he assessed me and said that I was doing my feet, the movement in my feet and strength is less than it was before. And I have had 3 falls in the past month, and he thinks that that's probably more damage to my low back. So that's why I have devolved a little bit. So I was going to put off the back surgery until August, but I have decided that I'm going to go ahead with it. There's a international AA convention that happens every 5 years, and I always go to it, but I may not be well enough, but I think it's probably better for me to get the surgery as soon as possible and take care of that. And, you know, I'll plan to be around in another 5 years when the convention comes around. On the joyous side, Tink and I continue in our struggle to declutter our house. We got through the holidays without acquiring too much new stuff, so that was good. Give us stuff that you can eat. That's what I say. Then it doesn't accumulate, or at least it has an expiration date. All right, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nick. It's good to see you up and getting around and with a great energy. Yeah. Yep. Anybody else? Did I see some other hands up there somewhere? Anybody online? Okay, so we place a stone in our water chalice, which, Grace, I thought you already did one. Okay, could always put another one. To represent the joys and concerns we have shared with our church community and in recognition of those we hold close and have not shared. May we remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts. So you didn't have to come up here and say it for it to, be in your heart. Our hymn next is number 1064, 1064, Blue Boat Home, one of our all-time favorites from the Teal hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and all that good stuff. And join us in singing number 1064, Blue Boat Home. The next portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. And during Festival Lights this year, so many people came in and we had this open and they were just astounded at how great this building is. So it's something that we really do love. And so you can accomplish helping to support us in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church's website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Dinah Rowe or Robert Braun, you know who he is, in the church office if you're interested in purchasing the gift cards. And again, it costs you nothing more than what you usually would spend on the groceries, but we get something from Stater Brothers. So please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. To those who give of their time and of their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. To all of you who have joined us here today, thank you for the gift of your presence. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? A bag will also be passed around to collect food and hygiene for those items for those in need. We also have something out there that you can put donations of those kinds of items in as well. For CURE, the Concerned Youth of Riverside, a sort of sub-function of the committee that Adam runs there. So we welcome you to join us as volunteers in CURE also. Thank you. Our next hymn is number 402 from the Gray Hymnal, From You I Receive, another of the UUC Greatest Hits. So please feel free to sing as Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 402, From You I Receive. Our meditation today is All That We Have Been, All That We Will Become by Leslie Ahuva Fales. We invite you to take a moment to sit back, relax, and if you wish, gently close your eyes. And you can even fall asleep if you want to. We'll wake you up when it's over. All that we have separately and all that we will become together is stretched out before and behind us, like stars scattered across a canvas of sky. We stand at the precipice, arms locked together, like tandem skydivers working up the courage to jump. Tell me, friends, what have we got to lose? Our fear of failure? Our mistrust of our own talents? What have we got to lose? A poverty of the spirit? The lie that we are alone? What wonders await us in the space between the first leap and the moment our feet our wheels, however we move our bodies across the precious earth, touch down softly on unknown soil. What have we got to lose that we can't replace with some previously unimaginable joy? Blessed are you, Spirit of life, who has sustained us, enlivened us, and enabled us to reach this moment. Give us courage in our leaping and gratitude in our landing, and share with us in the joy of a long and fruitful ministry together. Now let us pause for a moment of silence and reflection. Do we have the chime here? Oh, okay, well, pretend you heard it. Now, I would like to introduce Tinker Friend reading the sermon, Learning the Principles by Heart, by Reverend Leslie Becknell Marks. Please note that this is a pre-written sermon from the UUA website and does not necessarily reflect the view of the reader, though it might. Tinka?
Thank you, and welcome. Happy New Year, everybody. It's really nice to see everybody here. Yay. Before I start the sermon, I want to point out to some of the new people, our stained glass window that we have here lit up, it is a tradition that we have in our congregation whenever one of the members of our congregation has died, has passed. A longtime member, Cy Ober, did stained glass window in his retirement, stained glass whatever in his retirement, and made this and gifted it to the congregation. And so we light it when one of our members has passed, as Harriet Singer has this time. So that's why that's there. I just wanted to honor the person who made it and also the purpose of it. So it is a privilege to deliver the message this morning's sermon by Reverend Leslie Becknell Marks. I will say, and despite the disclaimer, it expresses my views exactly, so much so that I actually made a few additions into the sermon. As most of you know, my husband and I have been members of 12-step groups for over 35 years. He just celebrated in November 38 years of sobriety. So, and as you heard him say, he was really looking, both of us, been really looking forward to attending the International AA Convention, which happens only every 5 years. And in 2020, it was canceled, as was most of life. And we have attended every 5 years. We've attended the convention since 1990. So we've never missed one. So that's what he's been struggling with, about possibly letting that opportunity go. So these programs that we're in, the 12-step programs, are based on several spiritual principles and values, which we have learned to apply to all situations and all people that we have in our daily lives. It hasn't always been easy, and it takes intention and practice and consistent meetings with others who also strive to follow these principles and values. It's hard to follow these principles, any of these principles, if you're alone. It took me a couple of years to memorize the 12 steps, to know them by heart, and my relations with others did start to improve. But it wasn't until I truly focused on using and following those principles and values in my marriage, my friendships, my family, my job, that my life improved and that I was happier. And I know I was a better person. So as a result of my own experience, I wholeheartedly agree with Reverend Leslie Becknell-Marks and her views about using our UU principles, as we would say in a 12-step group, in all of our affairs. So this is her sermon. Learning the principles by heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. 77 years ago, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. All you need is love, 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 love. All you need is love. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Spirit of life, come unto me. I've memorized these lines, and I imagine many of you carry similar words in the recesses of your memories as well. I learned some of these words by heart because I was instructed to do so, or I found it convenient to do so. Some words just weaseled their way in and took up residence. In my early years as a Unitarian Universalist, a minister challenged the congregation to learn by heart the 7 UU principles and promised a prize to anyone who could successfully recite them. So I set out to memorize the principles, and I quizzed myself in the car as I was driving with my handy pocket card as a prompt on the seat beside me. Okay, let's see. We Unitarian Universalists affirm and promote, number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That's the easiest to remember. 2, justice, equity, and compassion. Justice, equity, compassion, and what? Oh yeah. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And then, number 3, that's something about encouraging spiritual growth. Right. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Number 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. That's another easy one. Then there's the one about democracy in our congregations and society. But what's that first part? Oh, yes. The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. Next is the one that sounds kind of like the Pledge of Allegiance, but not quite. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Right. We do it for the world, not just the U.S., and we add peace. That's good. And finally, number 7, the independent web. Respect for the independent web of life, of all existence, of which we are a part. Whew, I did it. I learned them all by heart. Well, pretty much. I didn't think I really merited a prize, but I was glad I had put in the effort to learn the principles by heart. Learn by heart. Except, my heart wasn't really involved in this exercise. I was using my mind and occasionally my eyes glancing towards my cheat sheet. It was really an academic exercise rather than a spiritual practice. The principles remained abstractions to me, worthy aspirations which didn't really affect me. They were floating around in my mind, but were not having a real impact on my body. I didn't feel any different after reciting them. What would it be like to really accept one another, to genuinely practice equity and compassion in the human relations with which all the actual humans in my life? As I genuinely imagined this possibility, I could feel something shift in my body. I could feel my heart open. It felt different to consider the principles in this way. There were certain words that had an impact on me: worth and dignity, equity, compassion, search for truth, independent web. So there I was, driving down the highway, feeling my heart opening at the thought of treating the people in my life with genuine compassion, honoring their inherent worth and dignity, and it felt good. It felt hopeful. Until suddenly, 2 lanes of traffic were closed ahead, and the people around me ignored the signs and were cutting in front of me. My heart immediately clamped shut as I started expressing my righteous outrage at these inconsiderate bozos. No compassion for what might have been going on for them, how they might have been feeling. No sense of equity. Those weren't people with inherent worth and dignity in those cars. I realized it wasn't so easy to carry these principles in my heart. The academic exercise of memorizing the words was much simpler than actually changing how I treated my fellow human beings. As I considered the challenge of moving the principles out of the theoretical realm and into the sphere of everyday living, I remembered a challenge from another Unitarian Universalist minister, Harry Meserve. Quote, "If you were arrested for being a Unitarian Universalist, would there be enough evidence to convict you? What might it mean to alter behavior according to these principles such that a case could be made to convince an impartial jury to convict a person of Unitarian Universalism?" Let's consider Terry and Pat, a Unitarian Universalist couple. They have amassed enough incriminating evidence of living by the principles to be successfully tried and sentenced as genuine Unitarian Universalists. They are parents who are actively involved in the Parent-Teacher Association at their child's middle school. Other parents are advocating removing some books from the school library which describe sexual development during adolescence. Terry and Pat are frustrated and astounded by the idea of banning books from the library. Terry believes that they need to stand up for justice and fight these parents every step of the way to prevent the books from being removed and from limiting information available to support the young teens in their free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Terry dismisses the other parents as close-minded, ignorant, and uptight, and frequently expresses this opinion during the meetings at high volume with colorful language. Pat, on the other hand, more calmly but just as passionately, argues with these other parents to the point of utter exasperation with how they just don't get it. Until one time, then Pat realizes that the other parents have the exact same feeling from their side of the argument. Utter exasperation with Pat, who just doesn't get it. In that moment of recognition, Pat sees them as fellow human beings rather than as inferior ignoramuses. Pat realizes that by dismissing them with belittling characterizations, she and her husband, have lost the opportunity to see the other parent's perspective. If they can remember the other parent's inherent worth and dignity, then they can listen to try to understand their objections to the books. Pat asked Terry to meet with the other parents, assuring Terry that they do not have to agree with them. Pat believes that if they genuinely want to promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, then they need to start in relation to these humans in the PTA. So they meet for coffee with the other parents. They listen with curiosity and open-mindedness. When they feel the temptation to respond indignantly, they take a breath and keep their mouth closed. They keep turning their hearts back towards them. They come to realize how much these parents also care about their kids and the other kids at the school. They hear that the other parents believe that good parenting means providing clear guidelines and protection from potentially corrupting influences like drugs, uncontrolled desires, and moral temptations. Terry and Pat calmly explain their vision of parenting as providing nurturing support and protection from external dangers like drugs, crime, dangerous toys, and the like. They all feel like they understand each other a little better. They don't agree with each other completely. They don't become friends. And they continue to debate what books belong in the library at their PTA meetings. Pat and Terry feel like they are being true to their UU principles in each meeting as they promote widespread availability of information and as they keep their hearts open to all of the other parents. What about when Terry and Pat arrive home? How do they hold the UU principles in their hearts with each other? When they walk into the kitchen after the PTA meeting, Pat notices a pile of dishes in the sink. Now, the general agreement is that Pat does the cooking and Terry does the dishes. In that moment, Pat feels infuriated because the dishes have been sitting in the sink for 2 days. I know that feeling at my household. In that moment, Terry shifts from beloved human partner to inferior dishwashing unit in under 10 seconds. Fortunately, in the car, they had been discussing the power of living the UU principles of compassion. UU principles at the PTA meeting. So Pat is able to remember the central concept of compassion in order to open up to Terry at that moment. So instead of jumping on him, she's asking Terry about the dishes in the sink with genuine curiosity. And that elicits a very different reaction from Terry than if Pat had spoken up a few seconds earlier with righteous resentment. Terry explains how tough work has been lately and asks if Pat would be willing to maybe help with the dishes tonight. They do the dishes together and then relax before going to bed. And Pat falls asleep, acknowledging how the attitude of compassion had contributed to the warmth and connection that they had experienced that evening. The next day, Terry is at the office leading the weekly team meeting for the project team that Terry manages. The status reports indicate that they will miss an important deadline. Terry feels the anxiety mounting, imagining the potential setback if the project is late. This anxiety is so uncomfortable that Terry quickly covers it over with anger and starts peppering the team with accusatory questions. Terry's heart closes. The people on the team are no longer human beings, but they are instruments to deliver different elements on the task list. In fact, they are substandard instruments who aren't even performing their functions. Looking around the table, barely hearing a word through the wall of anger, Terry notices Kim, who is in charge of the budget. Terry remembers that Kim has visited the UU congregation a few times and is suddenly embarrassed by the intolerance and authoritative stance that he has assumed in the discussion. Terry stops and thinks, this isn't how I want to be. This isn't how I live the UU values and principles. Terry brings to mind the word equity from the UU principles, and suddenly he sees the fellow human beings around the table. Terry can hear what they're saying and listens with compassion and curiosity. Together, the team evaluates the situation honestly, they challenge each other respectfully, and they come up with a modified timeline that is realistic. Terry feels proud for bringing the UU principles to life at work, recognizing this effort is a key task in leadership. While Terry leads the project team at the office, Pat takes a step into the leadership role on the street. While walking to work, Pat regularly passes by people smoking outside of a mental illness day program. Pat is irritated each day because of the smoke and the crowding on the sidewalk blocking the way. Frustrated because as a healthcare worker, Pat is aware of the dangers of smoking and knows some effective techniques for quitting, and anxious because Pat's brother has experienced psychotic episodes. And Pat's preference is to avoid confronting the confusion and pain that his mental illness brings up. Typically, Pat ignores these thoughts and feelings and just keeps on walking. But this day, Pat stops long enough to feel the emotions and consider the UU principles about the independent web of existence and the vision for a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. After a few thoughtful minutes, Pat walks past the smokers into the building and volunteers to lead a smoking cessation program for any of the staff or clientele who might be interested. Pat's decision to take the initiative and live the principles in the face of uncertainty and discomfort produces more evidence for an airtight case to be convicted as a Unitarian Universalist. Terry and Pat cannot recite the principles word by word, but they have learned them by heart. They take the lead in their lives to live out the principles. They have committed to notice when their behavior is out of sync with the principles, and to make the effort to reconnect their values and expend the energy to act differently. They actively seek opportunities to bring the principles to life. It's rarely easy, but it is always worthwhile. It takes strength and leadership. Their lives are different because they are Unitarian Universalist. William Sloane Coffin, a renowned progressive Christian minister, said, quote, "It is terribly important to realize that a leap of faith is not so much a leap of thought as of action." So now some questions for you. You might want to answer some of them at our Afterthoughts Talkback, or not. How could you take the principles out of the realm of thought and leap into action? What kind of case could be made to convict you of full-fledged, wholehearted Unitarian Universalism? What do you do when life calls on you to live out your principles? When someone's opinion is different than yours? When someone at the committee meeting interrupts and goes off on a tangent? When your beloved doesn't take out the trash? When someone makes an offensive joke, maybe even a racist joke? When you speak at the condo co-op meeting about the building's environmental impact? When you request that your employer make a policy change? When you are living your life every day? Now, I won't challenge you to memorize the principles. I have, because I give tours here, since it's a historical building, and people often ask us. But I do invite you to learn them by heart and be willing to back them up with the life that you lead. Be the example. I do challenge you to ask yourself, if I am the only Unitarian Universalist that this person meets, what kind of an example am I? Thank you. And our closing hymn is Answering the Call of Love. The words will be projected. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing the hymn, Answering the Call of Love.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love alive, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound.
As part of the closing, I would like to honor former President Jimmy Carter and his passing this week at the age of 100. He tried to always bring his spiritual principles and values into everything he did, including his presidency. I understand there are probably half, if not more, people in this room who have no memory of him, who was not even alive during that time. But many of us were. So this is a quote from his 1975 book, Why Not the Best? Quote, "We have a tendency to exalt ourselves and to dwell on the weaknesses and mistakes of others. I have come to realize that in every person there is something fine and pure and noble, along with the desire for self-improvement and fulfillment. Political and religious leaders must attempt to provide a society within which these human attributes can be nurtured and enhanced." End quote. And now I pray. The things to do have been done, well, for the most part. The people we need are in place, almost. We are ready, or as ready as we will be. Bless this most perfectly imperfect beginning. May we find the right people to do the right things as we go. May we discover that what we needed was right here all along. And may we remember to stop and marvel at the magic of each moment as it floats by. Amen, namaste, and blessed be.
Thank you, Tinka, for sharing your valuable time in the reading with us this morning. It didn't even seem like you were reading because those words sounded very authentically coming from you. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. We'll have, yes. And, even though these sermons may have come from someone else originally, it doesn't make it any less authentic for us when they're delivered here. So we will have 10 to 15 minutes for discussion following the service for those who wish to share your thoughts and observations on today's topic. Please be aware that these will be included on the video that is posted. So, yes, better living through your principles. For the rest of you, you are now welcome to adjourn to the parish hall. And don't forget, we have our first Sunday luncheon today, although we're still working on getting it ready. Would anyone like to come up and share their thoughts? Is there anyone online who would like to share anything with us? And that doesn't mean you can't also engage in dialogue with Tinka about today's service. So if there are no further comments, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Now please join us in the parish hall for the first Sunday lunch and further fellowship. Although, would you like to stay in here if there's any other discussion?
I just want to say that, kind of as I said at the beginning, that following any set of spiritual principles, whether they are the spiritual principles of the 12 steps or the spiritual principles of Unitarian Universalism, is not easy. Because, especially if you didn't grow up following them, if you're trying to suddenly follow them as an adult, the way we were brought up or the examples that we have seen kick in first. And we have to really be intentional. We have to really be working at it. And we will fail. We won't succeed 100% of the time. But one of the things that I love that isn't necessarily mentioned here, but it is in the 12-step program, and that is when I do an injustice, when I don't follow the spiritual principles, and I wind up acting in a way that I know is not my highest self, then it's my responsibility to make amends. It's my responsibility to apologize and to explain and to genuinely be sorry that the actions I took were not the actions that I ultimately want to do. When I first came to this church, I had not, this is the only church I'm 73 years old, and this is the only church I have ever joined in my entire life. And I did it after about 20 years in the 12-step program, and I came in here, saw these principles, and I immediately felt at home. I mean, because they aligned so much with the 12 steps that I had been living my life for about 20 years, and I just was overjoyed that there was a church whose vision and goal was not to judge other people, but to embrace them and to try to use this to live their lives, to be the highest spiritual persons that they could be here, and to engage and embrace others and improve the lives of the world and the people that they meet. So I do urge everybody to at least find out what they are. Try to see if you can follow them. I think the sermon was an excellent way of showing how things can come up in your life and how you can use the principles, to change the direction of where you were going. And believe me, you will feel happier and more peace inside of you when you follow these principles. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So, today's sermon, I hope at least gives you something to think about, because it's one thing to just know these principles and read them, and it's another to live them and apply them to your life, like these examples that were given in this sermon. So thank you, and I'm sure Tink will be open to discussions with anybody that wants to talk about it further after you've done some thinking, but otherwise, please come join us out in the parish hall. Thank you.
Hello. I'm going to give you an example. This is fascinating. I came in late. I always come in late. But the message was captured at the end, and I want to share something with you just for your reference. About a week ago, I was on a Metrolink. I hadn't ridden on one for many, many, many years. Now, I was a little scared because I'm alone on this, and, well, I'm not alone, but let's just say that it was an experience I hadn't had for a long while. But I'm on this, and a man behind on the Metrolink in the night trip back to Riverside from Los Angeles tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Are you a Seventh-day Adventist? You're wearing the kind of clothes they wear." And I went, "Huh?" Well, in my mind, I went, uh-oh, because you've got to be careful, I've been told. Be aware of strangers who may be on trains with you. And the point of this story is this. The gentleman then sat down across from me and started saying, "I'm a bit lost." I said, "No, I'm not. Actually, I go to the Universal Church. I'm not a member, but I really believe in what they believe in." And this is where it all started, on that trip home. The gentleman was getting off at Norwalk, not close to where I was getting off in Riverside, but still, it was an interesting conversation for this reason. The gentleman, if you judge a book by its cover, could have been very scary, because he didn't exactly look like someone that I would necessarily talk with by appearance. But what he said was interesting, because this man was weighing some changes in his life. He didn't say it exactly, but this is the point I got from it. He said basically, "I've had a life in prison and doing some things I really should never have done, but I'm trying to find a different way. I'm on my way to see a friend who's in that similar situation, and I want to talk with him about maybe changing his thoughts." And he said, and I said, "Well, that's great." And then I started talking about things I hear here in general terms. But it was a lovely conversation, because I went outside of my comfort zone to talk with someone who's kind of scared me, but it was worth the conversation, because at the end, he was given information about this church in Riverside, and I thought that was pretty cool. But whether or not he journeys from Norwalk to here, it's doubtful. But a man that I was frightened of, because he was kind of scary by appearance, was trying to have a change of heart. and trying to do kindness because he had felt he had done wrong things. He was trying to find his way to a new direction. And I guess the only thing so far is someone who knocked on his door or something that was Seventh-day Advent. I don't know. But I did indicate, no, I'm really not. But I'm sure if you're in this sense of your direction, you're headed in the right direction. And at the time when he got off, he said, I'll have to look into this universal idea. Now, will you see him here? Doubtful. Will I ever see him again? Probably not. But because the time was taken to try to find common ground with someone who normally you'd go, oh, dear God, this is not my normal association, and I'm kind of scared. I'm an old lady. I wasn't by myself. I was with a nice friend. But the point is, the conversation made, I think, this man open up an idea which was already brewing in him, that he was going to try to help someone else. And each time we can cross that barrier of tribalism and realize that there are common grounds in everyone, if the right moment is found, let's interact in a positive way and try to make a difference for everyone, one step at a time, one step at a time. That's it.
I, I did enjoy the talk. I guess what I think about mainly is when I came to Southern California, all my preconceived views of what I might find here were dashed over and over again. And so first rule of mine is make sure you only go where you feel safe. That means daylight mainly, doing things. Don't go exploring areas that you don't know at night. The second is don't ever argue with people. Be a fact finder. And third would be usually what you really think is never quite right. There's always some new information out there. When you get it, you go, oh, I didn't know that. Now, if the other person is an angry person, they'll say, well, do you believe my way now? Am I right? Never fall for that, because then you'll be defensive. Just say, thank you for sharing, thank you for letting me learn. That's interesting, and then leave. It has served me well, those three. Thank you.
So one of my family's traditions is that each year my parents put on It's a Wonderful Life to watch together. It's a good movie. And it's fun because it's a tradition. But it's also fun. It's also a movie that's worth watching once a year. And my parents probably know every line of dialogue by heart. So, they know they could act it out for us if they really tried, scene for scene. So they don't need to see it again. But we watch it again anyway because it's, at least they feel that it's sort of good for them, that it's still good to be reminded of that story, because that's what really allows you to take it to heart. And I think about that when I think about the stuff that I want to hear in church. I also have memorized the principles at this point, but that's not the point. The point isn't that I know them already. The point is that I need to hear that message and hear these stories one more time. And for instance, maybe the remembrance candle that we light each week, for instance, that's important enough that even though I know there's words already, it's still good to cement them in my heart and to reaffirm those really actively and consciously.
Well, number one, thank you for giving us your time. I'm also a product of the 12 steps. I don't have any particular substance abuse. My addiction is people, and it's not exactly any better. People are easier to find than drugs. If I were to say anything about the steps, I wouldn't stand on a pedestal and say they're so amazing, you gotta go try them, you know, it's the best thing since sliced bread. But I would say that it is helpful to have a set of spiritual principles. I would agree. I don't think everyone needs the same spiritual principles as the steps. I think they're a little bit cray-cray, and even people who work the steps agree. Everyone feels crazy in there. But it's the best we can do, so we do it. I do appreciate your comment afterwards, and I do have to make a point of this. If you grew up not having a set of spiritual principles, it's hard to retrain your brain. That's something I struggle with reminding myself often. You did okay. You know, you're doing the best you can. I think that is a really important tool when trying to live by spiritual principles. Give yourself a break. Have times off where, well, fuck, I tried. Have those moments where whatever it is for you, that's what you're doing for yourself. And that's why I have community. That's why I say it's important to have community, because my litmus paper, I don't know if you guys know what that is, my little testing strips of if I'm doing a good job being a decent human, it kind of needs to be recalibrated. Either I'm way off and I'm being a total jackass, or I'm way too hard on myself and I'm being a jackass to myself. So community helps. Hey, I went through this situation and I feel like a total jerk. And you have people you can trust and say, no, I think you did a pretty good job. So I'm thankful for this community. I'm thankful to have these messages again. And like you, Tinka, when I heard the principles here, I fell in love as well. No, this place isn't perfect. No, none of you guys are perfect. And that's okay, because neither am I. Love you all.
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm new. You'll see me here every Sunday if I can make it. I've heard a couple of things that I want to make a comment about. And I want to challenge you to try to see reality for what it is and not be stuck in definitions and words. I've heard the word failure. I've heard the word perfection. These don't exist. These are fascistic ideals. There's no such thing as perfection. So if you feel like you've fallen short, is your cup half empty or half full? Did you almost get there? What progress did you make? So try to see past those mental constructs and see reality for what it is. And thank you for letting me be here.
Always a smart play. Well, I'm sorry I was late to this, but I was able to catch at least some of the sermon, so that was helpful. And there's a couple of new faces. I'll just add in my 2 cents. With inflation, that's 35 cents American. I'm pagan, and in the early days, I used to love winning the argument. I'd find something in scripture that just seemed like, if that's right, it's cool as hell. No, you don't want to do this. But I discovered, it hit me one time. I'd won one of those arguments. That person was hurting, and I did damage. I want you to know that's an awful feeling. Do not repeat it. Do not repeat it. Do not do it. I love being right, and I love winning the argument. But let that be when it's just a tilting of lances on a Sunday afternoon between a couple of jousting knights. Don't let it be when somebody's hurting. I'm sorry for the damage I did. Only did it the once or twice that I know of, and I stopped. So here's to being not as quick on the uptake as I should have been, but eventually I got there.
Kind of piggybacking on that, Bill, I just wanted to share something from my 12-step program. There's a saying, when you're in that righteous place, where you're right, that other person, it's like, before you speak, ask yourself this question: would you rather be right, or would you rather be happy? Because often when we insist on that righteousness, that, I'm right, and insisting upon it, we walk away, nobody walks away happy. We don't walk away happy, the other person doesn't walk away happy. So would you rather be right, or would you rather be happy? Thanks. Also, I wanted to ask, is there anybody online that wanted to make a comment? Nobody has anything? This didn't touch anybody? No one can relate to this online? Okay, if there's no one, going once, going twice? No one else, then I would like to invite all of you to join us. We have our first Sunday lunch. It is a fundraiser, so there's a cost, but if you cannot afford what the asking price is, then pay whatever you can. And if you can't pay anything, please join us anyway. Thank you.